Hello. Good evening, members. I welcome you all for this study circle meeting on the subject Preparation and Presentation of Appeals before the CIT Appeals and ITAT. And to dwell upon this, we have CA Mohit Ashok Parmar with us. Can I request the Chairman CA Manjunath M. Ahalu to escort the speaker onto the dais and welcome him with a floral bouquet. Please give them a huge round of applause. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, CA Mohit Ashok Parmar. He is a fellow member of ICAI, having over 10 years of post-qualification experience in the areas of corporate taxation, international tax, and transfer pricing. He advises clients in the areas of direct tax litigation support, tax structuring, and tax compliances, transfer pricing, and due diligence aspects. He is a commerce graduate from the Bangalore University and holds a bachelor's degree in law from Karnataka State Law University, Hubli. He is also a company secretary. He has co-authored many articles in the areas of corporate tax and international tax across various tax forums. He is also involved in teaching direct taxes to CA finance students at Bengaluru branch of the ICAI. He is an active member of forums making representations, suggestions to the government on behalf of commerce and industries. He was previously associated with Hetzi Kincha and Co. and Deloitte Haskins and Sells LLP. He has also served as partner at NNMS and Co., heading their direct tax practice. He is currently partner at MAP and Co. Chartered Accountants. With this brief introduction, I present before you CA Mohit Ashok Parmar. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, honorable all members of our profession, and I sincerely thank Bangalore branch Chairman Manjunath sir and everybody kind of in the institute who has kind of given me an opportunity to present this particular topic to you guys. I qualified way back in 2011, and since then I was associated with Hetzi Kincha. So with Padam Kincha, I have worked for 5 years, first 5 years, then with Deloitte, and thereafter into practice. So I owe a lot of my kind of experience and my experience with direct tax from Mr. Kincha. So I owe him a lot, and he is of full support in the practice, and everybody, I mean, most of us who has direct tax kind of queries, we like complicated queries, we go to him, right? So yeah. So with this little background of mine, I can start off with the presentation. So an appeal is not an inherent right which is available with us. It is neither a fundamental right which we have unless it has been given in a statute. So if you have a provision of an appeal in a statute, only thereafter you can file an appeal and fight your grievance, or if you are applied by some of the orders or some of the issues which you have, then you have to have an appeal provision in that particular statute to file an appeal. So as it's a settled provision in law that the provision which is for granting the right to appeal has to be liberally construed, since this is a remedial in nature. So this has to be a it has to be a liberal construction as per the constitution, which has to be construed wherever there is an appeal matter. So since these are all civil appeals, basically for taxes there is a civil appeal. So some of the CRPC also comes into play. Now CRPC is not there. There is a change of name, Bharatiya something, so that has to be now governed. So appeal is not defined under the Act. There is a commission of appeals which is defined under the Act. So 216A, which defines Commissioner of Appeals, this is a person appointed to be a Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals under Section 117, subsection 1. Similarly, JC Appeals, which is the newly inducted appeals since 2023, since they want a speedy disposal of the appeals, they have introduced Joint Commissioner of Appeals, that is defined again as a Joint Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals or a Additional Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals under Section 117, subsection 1. So CIT Appeals is the first appellate authority wherein we can challenge the assessment orders passed by the assessing officers. So the sections relevant are Section 246 to Section 251 of the Income Tax Act 1961. So as of now, we have to refer to Income Tax Act 1961 itself, though we know that there is a bill in place, Income Tax Bill of 2025, but we will have to have the final kind of bill in play. This is again a draft bill. Again, there is a consultation which is happening across, you might have heard. So last consultation was in March. So they will have the first season of the monsoon session of the Parliament. They will be presenting their kind of points to the members of the Parliament. So this is the hierarchy. You have these are the appellate forums before whom we, as a assessee for tax issues, we go, at least when income tax matters, we go to the Commissioner of Appeals firstly, the first appellate authority, the second authority being the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. So these two authorities are the final fact-finding authorities. So anything on related to the factual issues, though we can raise legal issues also, but the fact-finding, the verdict on the factual issues has to be given by these two forums. Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals being a forum which is part of the Ministry of Finance and also comes under the CBDT, the Central Board of Direct Taxes. Whereas the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal is under the Ministry of Law. So it is an independent body again. So it is one level below the High Court, and thereafter any grievance we go to the Supreme Court. So Income Tax Appellate Tribunal also is one of the fact-finding authority. In fact, the last fact-finding authority for the income tax matters. So which are the appealable orders? So there is a section 246 also. 246 is basically relating to the appeals which will go to the JC appeals basically. But since we are inclined towards the Commissioner appeals, I just go back to the main 246A, where if there is any intimation which has been passed, which there is an adjustment which is made in the intimation, and the assessee is not happy with the adjustment which is happening in the intimation, because you know that today it's all electronic, filing happening, and e-assessment happening, e-appeals happening. So there is a processing which takes place. The central processing center which is there in Bangalore, they define that they do the return processing, and prima facie, if they find that there are some differences with what is reported in your income tax return versus what is there in the form 26AS or AIS, or for that matter your tax audit reports or any other form for that matter, even the SFTs, the specified financial transaction reporting, which the authorities are supposed to do. Let's say you have deposited cash of more than 10 lakhs in a savings bank account, then automatically that reporting is done to the board, to the kind of income tax as a file, which has to be done. So because of that, people are getting notices. Okay. So there are a lot of issues. So now coming back to the intimation part, a lot of returns are processed with an intimation, when the adjustments, let's say, they don't give you a credit of the TDS. They do some adjustment where if there's any adjustment in the tax audit report, if there's any disallowance, but you have claimed it in your income tax return, they say there's a difference and then they make an addition to that extent. Then there's all these there are the parameters have been set in the system itself so that picks up, that reads your form, PCD form and your income tax return form and any other filings made by the government, other parties involved in the process. So it picks up, and then there's an addition which is made in the intimation itself. So in fact we have seen cases where in the intimation they change the head of income. Suppose you have rented out a property and you have offered it rightly under the head, let's say, in your case, if it is a business, let's say in our case, that particular case was a person leasing out a property, then having a what to say, per seat basis they have the business. Okay, they instant kind of make a structural changes, give facilities, and give those kind of who want to start up. Basically, for startups, if we are giving some kind of sitting facilities and kind of working, basically co-working space if you are providing. So we had offered it in the business income, but they changed it to a income from house property. So that again is an adjustment which has been done in the intimation, which they were not supposed to do. They should give an opportunity, and thereafter they can make an addition in the intimation, without which that's an appealable order. So those days there was face-to-face appeals, and we had appeared before the CIT appeals. We had raised all these grounds that these are not a prima facie adjustments which are permissible under 143(1). So then we got a favorable ruling. So this is one of the examples which I can give you, but there are multiple things. TDS credit is a very simple example where they don't give you a credit in your intimation. So then again you will have to have a rectification is one mechanism, but then not every issue can resolve at the rectification stage. You all know. So there is an appeal mechanism which one has to follow also. So along with other additions, these additions are also there. Going back, next is your assessment, regular assessment, scrutiny assessment which has happened. So those are also appealable orders under the CIT appeals. Best judgment assessment also, there is an appealable order. Then reassessment, income escaping assessment. So these are basically the list. I have given this an instant in the intimation that how the kind of what are the orders. I mean, basically your grounds in which you will be fighting in the appeal is basically after the finding out the issues which are there in the order. If you are aggrieved by the intimation or aggrieved by an assessment order, if you are not happy with the best judgment order which has been passed, if you are not happy with the income escapement assessment which has been passed, thereafter there is a search and seizure, if you are not happy with the search order which are passed. So each of the topics has its own, each order it will have a lot of lacunas, a lot of problems, and we have to kind of analyze those and raise the grounds. Then there is a rectification order which are passed, which are not, again, they don't give you, let's say the TDS credit, a very simple example I'm quoting here. If in the rectification they are not still giving you the credit due to some reason, then you have no other option but to file an appeal before the CIT appeals and then get it resolved. Then there is a TDS intimations, you have additions which are filed, additions which are there in the TDS statements or TCS, or there is a failure to the TDS, there is a TDS survey happening and then there is an order under 201, or TCS there are some issues and there is order under 206C, 6A. So those are all orders which are appealable under the CIT appeals. Thereafter there are penalty orders under various sections of the penalty, those are appealable under the CIT appeals. There is a transfer pricing appeal wherein if there is any modified return being filed and limited to the advance pricing agreement, even those are appealable under the CIT appeals. An order under section 237, the refund, if you are not getting a refund, due refund which are due to you, those are also an appealable order under the CIT appeals. Then you have a refund for denying liability to deduct TDS. These are issues basically if you are making a non-resident payments under section 195 and you believe that there is no liability prima facie, but still you are supposed to deduct TDS, and also that TDS has to be borne by the deductor itself. So in that case, once you have paid the taxes, you can file an appeal. That was an earlier era. Under section 248, you used to file an appeal after the payment of TDS on 195 on suo motu basis. Now the process is a little changed after the introduction of 239A. The issue which is after the 248 appeals were there prior to April 2022. After April 2022, we have a new as in the refunds are requests are being first put up before the assessing officers, these particular aspect, but even after that if you are not being given relief, thereafter that becomes an appealable order. So thereafter there is an assessment of under succession, under section 170 subsection 2, 170 subsection 3, those are also an appealable order under the CIT appeals route. So which are the orders which are not available under the CIT appeals route? The orders which are passed under section 264 rejecting the revision petition. Basically, if there is an order passed and if you are not happy with the order, if you don't want to file an appeal before the CIT appeals, you have an option to go before the Principal Commissioner of Income Tax by filing a petition under section 264. That look, this order is passed and we are not happy with the order. So we want your intervention and we want you to look into this matter and viewing the Principal Commissioner, and thereafter he considers it, he has to give an opportunity, and if required he will he will get a report from the EO also, and then take a proper he'll pass a proper reasoning order. After that also, if you are not happy, the option which you have is only to file a appeal before the ITAT and not the CIT appeals. Revisionary orders under section 263. Revisionary orders are basically of your CIT, which they are suo motu do. The revenue suo motu kind of looks into the assessment orders, and if they see that the assessing officer, there is any kind of additions which are to be made but it's not made, and it is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, then they invoke this section 263 and they conduct the proceedings. Obviously, they give you an opportunity, but they conduct the proceedings and then they pass the orders in 263. Those orders passed by the CIT or the principal CIT, those are not appealable under the CIT appeals route. Order passed by AO under section 197 subsection 1, that is load reduction certificate which you get, those are also not appealable under the CIT appeals route. You have to file a writ petition or you have to go to the ITAT route to get this resolved. Order of refusal to grant stay, section 220 subsection 6. If you have an order of the AO not granting you the stay, you go to the CIT, PCIT basically, that we would want to stay. Even if the PCIT is not considering the request of your stay, then it will go to the order which is there, which is passed under 220 subsection 6 by the AO rejecting your stay, that is appealable only to the ITAT and not to the CIT appeals. Order disposing, the order revoking the registration under 12A, that is the Commissioner of Income Tax exemptions rejects your application. Those are appealable not under the CIT appeals route but only against the ITAT route. Then there is an order, the 147 proceedings are there now. The new procedure envisaged has a procedure to be followed under 148A, and there is an order which you get under 148B. After you get a notice of 148B and then they take inquiries from you that why this addition should not be done. Basically, they will have some information where you have not filed a return of income. There will be some addition, there will be some cash deposits or some property transaction. Basically, some SFT related information they get from the regular filings of the SFT. Those they will cases gets picked up in the reopening stage, and thereafter there is an issue of notice under 148B before invoking the before issuing the 148 notice. So those orders which are passed under 148A, B before the issue of 148, those are not appealable under the CIT to the CIT appeals. Thereafter, the order passed pursuant to the DRP directions, those are also not appealable under the CIT appeals. So this is a transfer pricing matter where transfer pricing or a non-resident case where if there is a addition which are proposed in the draft assessment order and we file in objections before the DRP, then the DRP disposes its directions. Those directions are not appealable before the CIT appeals, because the DRP also is a collegium of 3 commissioners who are there in place. So these are not appealable in the CIT appeals route. Only if you don't go to a DRP route in the transfer pricing case also, and if you say that you want to file an appeal, you accept the variation and then get a final order passed in the transfer pricing assessment, or for a case of non-resident also, once you get a final assessment order without going into the DRP route, you can file those appeals into the CIT appeals, and not once you have visited the DRP proceedings, thereafter you cannot file an appeal. After the directions which you are receiving from the DRP and you getting a final order, there cannot be a ITAT, there cannot be appeal before the CIT appeals. It has to be only to the ITAT. Then interest charged under section 220 subsection 2 till the demand is not paid, okay, those interest also cannot be appealed before the CIT appeals. Please stop me if there is any query. Yeah.
So in the case of 144C order,
144?
144C,
Yes.
where DRP usually get taken. So in that particular order example, so one of the condition is we have to accept the order, or if there is any concern from our end.
See, there is a draft order which the assessing officer will pass.
Yeah, it's a draft order. It's not
So
only order.
thereafter you have 30 days time to either file before the DRP the objections, or you have to accept the addition and get the final order from the AO. Get the final order.
So after that I can go for CIT.
CIT, yes.
Okay, still have another option to go for CIT if
Yes.
I accept within 30 days.
Yes, if you accept the
final order will be passed.
if you accept the draft order, the AO has time of 1 month to pass the final order.
Correct.
So once he passes the final order, you can file that appeal to the CIT appeals.
But see, I have a concern with the variation, proposed variation. Then if I accept it, then it won't be a contradictory when I go for a CIT. That is
No, this is the draft order. That is the mechanism provided in the Act. That if you have to follow this in the draft order which you are accepting, this is only to get a final order, and you have to have this matter resolved to the CIT appeal stage. That is what you want to. You want to knock the doors of CIT appeals and not the dispute resolution panel (DRP). So it's not that you are accepting. So you are telling that we would not want to pursue before the DRP.
But the wordings say that either they have to accept it, or if you have a concern, then
Correct. So the wordings is given in that manner, but the mere acceptance there doesn't mean that you are accepting to the additions carried out. Again, that is only to pass a final order, so that you can go before the CIT appeals and raise your grievance. So the time limit to pass, to file an appeal basically is 30 days from the service of the notice of demand. So it is not the date of the order which you get, but it's a date of service of the demand. From that date, you have 30 days to file an appeal, and before 1/4/2022, there used to be a 248 appeal, which I just mentioned to you. Then the other cases, again within 30 days of the intimation or the orders not to be appealed against, you can file an appeal before the CIT appeals. So for assessment and penalty, it is date of notice of demand which you get. From there you get 30 days. For other cases, it is the date of which you get the intimation or other orders which you get, which get served. Basically, you receive that orders, and thereafter 30 days time to file an appeal before the CIT appeals. So this is the fee which you will have to pay to the government. Where the total income is less than 1 lakh, it is 250. 1 or less than 1 lakh. Between 1 lakh to 2,50,000, 2 lakh, sorry, it is 500. And where the total income is exceeding 2 lakhs, it is 1,000 rupees. So where the subject matter of appeal is not covered in A, B, C, then you have to go with the 250 rupees. And I have given you a note there. It is a minor head, other receipts, subtype, appeal fees to be paid under others. Basically, that is the important thing which you have to make note while making the appeal filing fee. The key points which one has to take care, again the rule also prescribes that. So the appeal to the CIT should be in form 35, and the appeal should be filed electronically. This is after the March 2016 this change is done. Now you'll have to check all the pre-filled basic details with your PAN, the name, the address, the phone, the email, authority which is passed the order, against which you're filing an appeal. Thereafter, you have to select your assessment year correctly, then insert the order appeal, which under which section is the order passed, 143(3), read with 144B, or 147, read with 144B, or you have to look into the section correctly and then put that there, the DIN number. Then there's an option with DIN, without DIN, so you'll have to choose accordingly, and date of service of order. Then details of the appeal in relation to any other assessment which is pending, that details also has to be mentioned in the form. So this is basically the the final before the preview happens. This is the sheet where you have the basic details which are there, which I just mentioned. There is an order against which you are filing an appeal. Then there is a pending appeal which are there. Then there is appeal details which you will have to file. Details of taxes paid, that is, if you file a return of income, you will have to provide acknowledgement number, date, details of the prepaid taxes, the amount of prepaid taxes which are already being paid. Thereafter, you have statement of facts which are there and grounds of appeal which you have to do. And there is also mention about the additional evidence whether you wish to file under Rule 46A or not. Then there is an appeal filing details which you have to file, basically mentioning about the condemnation, if at all there is a condemnation delay. I just go to that in detail in subsequent slides, but just kind of mentioning here. Thereafter, there are attachments. There is a limit of 50 MB to the attachments, and each file, it should be in PDF or it has to be in the zip file. It cannot exceed 5 MB each file, and overall it should be within 50 MB. Then there is a form of verification which you have to file by your DAC or by OTP, Aadhaar OTP, or there are other methods which are prescribed. So this is the specimen of the form basically. So the first, as I told you, it's basically the personal information which is there. So name, last name, postal, which post office, all these things is basically they ask you. Thereafter there is a appeal against which you are filing an appeal. So those are the details. Then the pending details. Then the appeal details. Details of taxes paid. Statement of facts. Then there is a appeal details. Whether there is a delay. Whether there is a delay or not. And there is a appeal fee details also. You will have to mention here before proceeding. So I just continue with the key points which are there when you have to file the appeal. If the appeal relates to any assessment, please provide the details of the appeal, the amount of income assessed, the total additions or the disallowances, the amount of the addition or disallowances, disputed demand, etc. If the appeal relates to penalty, please provide the details of the, which I mentioned the penalty, which section of the penalty and the amount of the penalty which you intend not to pay. If the return has been filed, then provide details of the taxes paid. If there is no return which has been filed, there is a mandate that you will have to ensure that the payment of taxes equal to the advance tax was paid. That is the mandate there. This is given in section provisional section 249, subsection 4. Now, statement of facts should be brief. It must not exceed 1000 words. These are given in the form, the online form 35 basically. But if you have facts which are exceeding 1000 words, then maybe you can make a remark there that as per the attachment or as per the annexure enclosed. That is what you can make one remark and attach your proper statement of facts. We will dwell upon it later. How do you kind of go about drafting the statement of facts? Then there is a ground of appeal. Again, there are multiple grounds which you can raise, but each ground must not exceed 100 words. That is what the mandate there. And if there is any delay, then you will have to file the continuation basically in the system itself, or there is a remark on there. So you will have to give your reasoning of why there was a delay and how many days of delay had happened, and if possible, let the application of let there be a proper application. There is no proper format, but the general format of continuation, you can file an application along with an affidavit and with your reasoning. Let's say if you have medical grounds, then try attaching some of the medical records, some certificate, doctor certificate which you have got to the related to this issue why it is led to a delay in filing of an appeal, or you may have other reasons. So try to kind of get some details and try to file with an affidavit, though it is not mandatory in the CIT appeals proceedings, which is mandatory again at the ITAT level. But CIT appeals level, it is suggested if you file a affidavit, it has kind of the appeal will get controlled easily rather than kind of going into the reasoning again why there was an issue, and your deliberation, your remarks should be backed up by the evidences. So there is a details of challan which you will have to mention in the form.
Challan for condemnation of delay.
No, not challan for condemnation delay. That is appeal filing fees.
Okay.
Sure. So, one of my client had, like, we had appeal for him with one of my colleague. So he had not filed income tax return, he got notice for that. But he did not pay any advance tax. I was asking my client to pay, he was not agreeing, and we said we'll go for appeal, and we went for detailed submission also. The appeal, the order is pending, but we did not pay any advance taxes, or tax was actually due, but he was not ready to pay. What will happen in such situation?
See, that again depends on the CIT appeals. Generally, they don't look into this, at least what I have seen, they don't look into this in a very serious manner. So they will consider it, and they will not look into this issue. But if they want, they can reject your appeal, and then you have to ensure that you pay taxes and then refile your appeal with the condonation. So that can be the
So
possibility.
first we made appeal at the section, that form 35, then came the detailed submission, we we filed for detailed submission. Till then there was no
So
demand.
once you get a notice for hearing under 250, then it's as good as they have admitted your appeal, and then you are giving the submission, then they cannot go back. So if appeal has to be rejected, it has to be rejected at the first stage itself.
Under 250 they
Yes,
were
if they have issued the notice and if you file the submissions, then this issue will not come in your case.
So it is not necessary, that is what my colleague told.
See, it is a given mandate which is there, but again, if you have to follow a proper process, then you have to file an application. They have the power to exempt it. There is a proviso which is there in 249 section 4. So you will have to file an application with giving the reasons, so good and sufficient reasons. Then they may exempt it. That's the actual process given. But then if you kind of not paid, and then it's all e-proceeding going on. So I don't know how far the CIT appeals
The
are
client
also.
was really reluctant because of that. He said it's okay, let देखा जाएगा बाद में.
Okay, so that's all. So once you have received a notice at 250 and you have done a submission, then but the moment you receive a notice at 250, that means they have admitted your appeal. Be it condonation, be it issue relating to this payment of taxes where there is no return, you will find.
Thank you, sir.
So this is the thing. They have
I have a question regarding penalty orders. So let's assume there is a order under 143 and it is unfavorable. And after that, the assessing officer has given a show cause notice for a penalty, and it is covered under one of the sections mentioned. Now, if we file appeal against the 143 order, can we reply to the penalty show cause that we have gone against appeal and to keep this in abeyance?
yes, absolutely.
And assuming he didn't consider our reply and he still passes the penalty order, do we have to go for a second appeal on that order again?
Yes.
Okay.
That is an appealable order, and that is separate proceeding by itself, and you will have to fight that out on an independent basis.
Okay. So even after filing an appeal for 143, again you have to go for the penalty orders.
Yes, if the order is passed, if they are not, as you said that you have placed a request to keep it in abeyance,
Yes.
but if they have not given you a chance, let's say even though you have told keep you in abeyance and also provide an opportunity before the orders are passed, if they don't provide an opportunity and they pass an order, then there's a principle of natural justice. These things, that issue is there, but thereafter also you can fight it on an independent basis.
Okay.
And you can always say that, look, this is I mean, wherever there is a strong kind of case of yours, and you can always demonstrate that, look, we have a very strong case. And actually, these additions were not supposed to be made, but it's been made. And we are fighting for it, but we have not got a proper hearing notice, or it's not disposed. We request you sincerely to have it kind of kept in abeyance, because this is again a linked matter. If the ultimate additions are not concluded in the CIT appeal stage, then penalty also can be kept in abeyance. Is what you can always plead, but depends again on the AO how they react. Again, it's a face list, so we don't know how the AO reacts. But technically speaking, if they want to proceed, but they have to give you an opportunity before they finalize the order. But if they don't give you and they pass an order, then principle of natural justice ground can be raised, and that can be.
One last question. Now, it is said that you have to pay 20% of the demand at the time of filing appeal. Let's say the amount is very huge and you cannot pay that, let's say around 1 or 2 crores. And the demand will always stay, and are there any chances that they will attach the bank or any property to take that even after going on appeal?
See, once you file an appeal, you have circular which says that 20% of the demand is collectible by the AO. So that has to be, you have to file a state petition right after the appeal filing is done. And in fact, with 30 days of your notice of demand, you have to file a state petition along with your Form 35 and acknowledgement of the appeal filing, and request them that look, there is an appeal which is filed. So kindly again request not to pay the kind of entire demand, and 20% also is very difficult. You can show a difficulty by way of the financial difficulties or any other reasoning, which the AO is at discretion, may agree or may not agree. But rightly, he can only collect 20% of the demand and not the entire demand. Thereafter also, if he is not satisfied, if he passes an order, thereafter he can go ahead with the recovery proceedings attaching the bank. Without passing an order, he cannot directly attach the bank. After that also you have, like you can go before the PCIT, request them for installments. There are options open, and you can always file an application before the AO telling that look, we have filed a petition before the PCIT also requesting to look into the matter, and also asking them that some time, some installments, some part payment, all those request case to case basis, you can raise it and you can have it deferred.
And how do we file state petition now? Since with faceless, we don't know the AO's.
You have to file it with your jurisdictional AO.
Jurisdictional AO.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, even there also, you just need to send an email. The jurisdictional AO will have an email, right?
Yeah, you can send an email. Yes, that will also suffice. But suggest that physically also you file and then meet him. If there's a, see, if you keep getting the outstanding demand notices on a regular basis, that means you may take action. If you don't take an action, they may take an action. So,
obviously.
practice in that.
Just continue on the same question.
With respect to recovery proceedings, right? Usually, what all do they attach? Is it just the bank account, or else can they go can they go behind the immutable properties or anything like that? In your experience, what you have seen?
In experience, we have seen bank accounts only. We have not seen
that is one of the
property and other things actually.
Is it because majority of the time that 20% of the amount it is so significant that the AO also does not accept to control, right? In those cases, so can we just remove all the funds from the bank? Right? I'm not sure.
So that is up to you how you go about kind of doing it, but they would want to kind of ensure that they will check the bank statement. See, how do you ensure that you have financial difficulties? By showing your bank statement 6 months or a year bank statement and trying to demonstrate that there's an actual difficulty or there's a loss which the company is suffering. Startups, they have persistent losses, there's no fund flow, and that if you demonstrate, I'm sure AOs will oblige and they will kind of. If not AO, then you may get a direction from you can meet their additional. That's a practical practice which I'm telling you. But legally, we'll have to go to PCIT only. Once if there's a 226 order which is passed by AO, then we have to go to PCIT and then plea before him.
At the end, even if they disagree, max they attach the bank accounts as per not they don't go behind anything else.
No. So that is start of the thing which like you are showing your kind of way of not paying taxes or not obliging to that. Neither you are kind of replying to these and then. So that is the first step which they do. The tax recovery officer, they have their own protocols or they also have their own procedure to be followed. So they may go beyond. That is the first step. Thereafter, they may go beyond other assets which are there. So that's the mandate.
In one of the cases, I received a demand for 1 lakh, example, and subsequently I filed income tax return wherein I was supposed to get a refund of 1 lakh rupees. So now the officer, what he has done is he has adjusted his entire 1 lakh rupees with my refund. Okay. Should he have
done only 20% or can he adjust full 100%? And if so, can I go for refund or balance 80%?
So see, I mean practically I'll just tell you that they may not issue the refund also to you. They may say that this matter is subsidized before the CIT appeals.
But max they can collect is 20%.
That is again as the circular, completely with you, but they will not issue the refund because there are other demands which are showing. Let's say demand is 1 lakh and 1 lakh is refund.
For subsequent year.
Correct, subsequent refund is 1 lakh which has been showing to you, and then you say the adjustment, they can go only to the extent of 20%, but they generally do it for entirely, or they don't issue the refund because they say there's a demand. The system will not allow, or they will have their own kind of reasoning there. So that again you have to fight it out through a writ petition only. There is no other mechanism provided where you.
It doesn't look logically at one stage you are paying only 20%, and second stage these people are entirely adjusting 100%.
See, 20% is only again a temporary thing through the mandate of the law that you are before the appeal, and that matter may be in favor of assessee, may not be in favor of assessee. So that is a mandate given that 20% is what you can collect. That 20% you can collect, and thereafter you can kind of.
And they apply the same analogy here.
But that's what they may ask you for an indemnity bond or whatever. That's up to their discretion to ask before issuing the refund. So again,
But when they are able to file for 80% state related, then same rule should apply for this.
see refund, getting refund proceeding is itself a different proceeding. They have their own protocols to follow before issuing a refund to you. If there's a demand which is lying for other years, they may not give you refund. But if you still insist that look, collect 20%, give me a balanced refund. Let's say if you're talking about 1 lakh, but assume that amount is a little higher. Let's say if it is in crores, then you have to fight this out.
This is 1 lakh is an example.
Correct, absolutely. So then you have to fight it out. If they agree within the system, then well and good, you get a refund of them. But again, you will have to give an indemnity to them. Maybe that's one point which I can recollect now, and they may ask you. You have to give an indemnity bond, and if the demand is crystallized, CIT appeals passes an order against you, then the entire payment is collectible.
But that can happen in state proceedings also. Like we go for 80% stake related. So that order can be against me also, no, in future.
That's also.
Then why only for refund they are doing like this?
That is their right, they have to issue to you. So. Sorry, so where I was on section 249 subsection 4, where there is no return of income being filed, and there is a payment of taxes which is mandated to the extent of your advance tax. So that can be kind of exempted by the CIT appeals on an application being moved to them. So even if the consequences of a dismissal, then you will have to make good this. You have to pay taxes, file appeal, and then with the condemnation you can file the appeal again. Now again I come back to the key points. Form 35 does not expect these special characters which are given highlighted in red. So this is the issue with the form which is there. So you have to take care of this when you are filing the appeal online. Then the following documents will be attached along with the form 35. That is the order against which appeal is being filed, the notice of demand. Then there is if there is a penalty appeal, then the order of penalty, and also the assessment order if required you can attach it. And there are other attachments also where if you have any additional evidence, that also can be filed in the form. And there are other documents, let's say you prepare a statement of facts in a proper word format, then that can be attached along with the, let's say the challan you can attach. So you have an option to attach other things also along with this mandated requirement of filing an order, attaching the order and attaching the notice of demand. Then as I told you, the attachment size is maximum is 50 MB, and single attachment is not exceeding 5 MB. In PDF or zip format is what we accept. Appeal can be verified through a digital signature certificate or through an EVC or through other OTP. So this is the kind of verification mode which is given in the online. And who is authorized? Basically the person who signs the return under section 140 of the Act. So that particular person is supposed to file the appeal form as well. So coming to the statement of facts. Now, when you get an order, most of the cases you win on a factual basis. That is kind of given in across all civil matters, to be frank with you. At least the lower forums. So factual issues, if you can find there are some issues which are there which has not been considered by the AO, that has to be kind of highlighted. Or you hear your client's plea and thereafter make note of some of the factual points which are not captured in the appeal. So that you will have to make a note separately and then try to see how you can frame your statement of facts. There is no set format given under the Act. So you can properly, you can number 1, 2, 3 and you can start your statement of facts. So let the facts let the statement of facts be only facts, not the legal points. You kind of raise it in the statement of facts. So avoid raising any legal points there, like the notice was not signed by the assessing officer, or there was the opening of the case was after the limitation date, or case laws which you are quoting. So if required, then please go ahead and quote, but then try avoiding and make it keep it very simple and factual, because you will get an opportunity when you are filing the return submissions to expound your kind of grievance there. Under each of the grounds of appeal, you can kind of write in a very detailed manner there and raise all your points attaching along with the evidences, because at the appeal stage itself, if you start attaching evidences, then it may not look good. So anybody reading it, see, let's say it's all ultimately some person is only reading, right? It's not system reading it here. There will be somebody who will be reading it. So let it be crisp, very comprehensive, very completeness in nature, so that somebody reads it here. It should look like a proper storytelling kind of a thing in your in the written form actually. So let it be brief, and only relevant facts should be captured there, because during the assessment there will be various aspects which will be touched upon, but the additions will be only on 2-3 aspects. So when you are drafting a statement of facts, ensure that you stick to those relevant facts and try to conclude. As good in your form itself, they say 1,000 words. So try to stick to those 1,000 words. It's good for you. So that should be a mandate kind of at your end. Then facts should also cover those facts which are not considered by the AO. That's like I told you. Please ensure that you hear your clients and something which is relevant, which is not being kind of forming part of the assessment order. You can kind of make those points and then ensure you raise it or you put it across in your statement of facts. Let it not be an argumentative. So key arguments, reliance on judgments, so must not be included. That can be part of your written submissions. So there is a difference between statement of facts and written submission. You have to wait for a written submission to be filed. Once you get a notice under section 250, you have time, and also you can have the chance to present your case with the detailed kind of your case laws. You can write each of the ground, each of the sections which you are kind of contesting. Then you have your factual issues. You can, do a proper referencing of your annexures. You can have a paper book in place. So those are the things can be formed part of your written submissions. But statement of facts, let it be very crisp, clear, concise, so that it conveys to the reader what is your case about, and not going into aspects which are not required for your grounds of appeal, or which is not linked to your additions basically. Coming to the grounds of appeal, there is no format again prescribed, so you can keep it very simple, again very concise and serial numbered. Then you can include the natural justice ground, jurisdictional ground. You can just check whether if there is a change of guard, change of the NEO, whether you were served with 129 notice under section 129, or this limitation. You have to be very careful here whether the invocation of the assessment proceeding itself, let's say 143.2, whether the notice itself was issued on time, whether at all a notice was issued under 143.2 or not. So just by 142.1, by issue notice under section 142.1, the proceedings are being conducted. So little kind of careful analysis on these, how the notices are served, how the assessment is concluded. If there are any kind of technical kind of point which you can raise it from a procedural lapse which the AO has done, that ground can be raised. Ground should be for each addition. Ensure that you have raised a ground so that it's easy for you to put all your submission to that ground. Let it be an open-ended ground. What they mean open-ended is don't be argumentative in your grounds. Just keep it very simple. Decide that he has erred in doing so and so. That much will do for you. And let's say he has erred in disallowing cash deposits of, let's say, 50 lakhs under section 69, 69A, 68. Basically, just giving an example. So just keep that, it's a very open-ended ground so that you can add your grievance, all your points there with the legal submissions on that particular section where the additions are done. So separate grounds for each addition will do. Levy of interest if any done in the order, it is consequential, please raise the ground. And please mention this, that you leave the liberty, a prayer kind of thing, or an additional ground, like you need to add, alter, modify. That request can be done in one of the grounds, telling it's a prayer. And then you have a repetition of same ground by different wordings. In other words, you use, right? You want to protect your client, you want to show that a lot of grounds have been raised this rightly, so in a different language, avoid that. So if you have raised it, then that's it. So if there's a cash deposit issue which has been not correct according to you in a section 69, let's say, then just raise the ground and leave it, or also invoke that conditions to invoke the section 69 was not correctly done, or they have not looked into the conditions and they passed the order. So keep it very crisp, precise. Don't go into, in other words, they should have done this, they should have done that. You should avoid that kind of grounds, which when you are drafting the grounds, you should avoid those kind of repetition of the same ground may not look good, and it may confuse the commissioner of appeals when he's looking into the matter. Also avoid quoting the case laws in the grounds. They should form part of the written submissions to the grounds of appeal. So one has to take care. These are the very important aspects which they will look into straight away, apart from certain points in the appeal form, whether taxes, appeal fees have been paid, whether the appeal is filed in time. So after 2-3 things, they straight away go to the grounds, and sometimes they don't look into the statement of facts also. So ensure the grounds are very clear, precise, and to the point, because then opportunity to raise an additional ground may arise, but then you will have to again file a plea, a separate petition, and tell them a reason of why didn't you raise in the first instance. So you will have to follow a proper process to raise an additional ground. So that has to be bear in mind. If you are raised irrelevant grounds, and then the important ground which is attached to your or linked to your additions, if you have missed that, then it may lead to other consequences of enhancement and other issues actually. Now, if there is a condonation of delay, so naturally if there is sometimes if there are certain grounds, medical grounds, or some associates from village, he may not find a proper CA in his locality, he may have to come down to, let's say, from Mysore or many other kind of tier 2, tier 3 to Bangalore, or it will be other locations also. Then generally they need time to find the right person to file an appeal. That can be one of the ground. Then you have medical grounds of condonation. So the sufficient cause or the reasonable cause for the delay in filing an appeal, that has to be clearly brought out in your form or in your application of the condonation. And as I suggested, please have an affidavit also in place, but ensure that you have a right reasoning provided, rather than playing around with some of the other reasons which are not acceptable. So you have to be very clear what reasons are acceptable, and you have to consult a proper your CA who is filing. So you have to look into that very carefully. Don't take it in a very casual manner, and then let that be backed up by proper evidences, so that the appeal is admitted, even if there is a delay of let's say 100 days, 200 days, or 300 days also. If there is a sufficient reason or sufficient cause, they may have to admit that also. There are cases that they have condoned the delay of more than 365 days also. So the word sufficient cause should receive a liberal construction, but you cannot give a wrong reasoning. That's why I say if it's backed up affidavit, nobody would want to give a wrong reasoning in the affidavit, what is signing. So length of delay is immaterial, as I told you. So assessing never benefits by resorting to a delay. So as I told you at the very start, that this is a remedial measure. Appeal is not a inherent right which we get. So it is again through a statute only we will get this right. So when there is a delay, then we will have to show our reasoning, sufficient cause or reasonable cause of what led to a delay. Each of the delay, there may be multiple grounds of delay. Let's say first for 3 months, some medical grounds, next 3 months, some other issues would have cropped up. So please write that and ensure that that's backed up with the proper evidence, so that the appeal is condoned in a smooth manner, rather than going into the, suffering a dismissal of the appeal or due to the condonation, or they not condoning an appeal. That can be an issue.
So, Mohit, Sir, actually, practically,
so like practically we see that trains come very late. Okay, so sometimes they will not have any reasons. So we'll have to create some reasons. What can be told as a except medical reason, any other reasons are there?
So I told you, so if the assessee is from a land to land city, so that can be a reason. If there are other issues which are there, traveling for some business reason or some strong reasons, it may not be allowed. See, that's again, they are the best person to control the delay. The CIT appeals or the tribunal members in the tribunal. So you will have to ensure you give a proper reasoning. So they are there to help you out, to accept your reasoning, and because as I told you, it has to be a liberal interpretation.
One what happens, assessee is let's say senior citizen, and he is not very active and is it can be a reason?
That's also now let's say these e-proceedings which are going, service of notices through email, or sometimes it's only in the online portal. So if the assessee is not equipped, that can be a reason, but it's up to them to admit it or not. But if they don't condone the delay, then you don't have an option but to file an appeal for ITAT, or also explore the option of filing a writ before the High Court. But again, that has to be strongly argued and tried to present a case so that the condonation is accepted.
Sir, other than the medical reasons, which are the valid reasons which they accept for the condemnation, generally?
That's all. Again, it varies from person to person, and if whatever reason is there, so the delay has to be with the proper reasoning, right? I mean, you have, let's say, proper lack of knowledge or serious illness for yourself or any of your family members. If there's a, that's all. So again, I can go about reasoning, but that has to be backed up by evidence. So that evidence cannot be created. So that has to be ensured. So delay in appointment of a CA, but how far they accept that, that's up to them. See, yours is you have to ensure you raise the ground. Let's say COVID was a ground, so there was Supreme Court ruling there. So we used to quote that, and ultimately the delay used to be condoned. And in fact, that was there that during that period, the delay has to be automatically condoned. And only the rest over, on the balance period of delay, you'll have to demonstrate it with some reasoning. It's sufficient reason or reasonable cause. See, I've given some reasons here. So one has to look into it, and then again that has to be backed up by evidence, and that has to be put forward before the appeals. So filing of additional grounds of appeal. As I told you, if your grounds of appeal is not, some of the grounds which are not covering a proper addition, or if your ground is not raised, then you may be allowed, but CIT, you have to satisfy the CIT appeals that this was not raised due to it was not a willful kind of mistake or that you have to demonstrate that. It was not a willful or unreasonable. So you have to demonstrate why it was missed. That if you demonstrate, then they have the option to allow you to file an additional ground, admitting the additional ground of appeal. So that is important. So the Supreme Court ruling which say that the Act does not contain any express provision debarring the assessee from raising an additional ground of appeal, and there is no provision in the Act placing restriction on the power of appellate authority in entertaining additional ground of appeal. So you can as good raise additional ground of appeal, but that has to be through a proper kind of reasoning, and your deliberate attempt or your willful attempt should not be should not be made available there. I mean, it should not look apparent that you have willfully not raised this ground. Then there is an additional evidence which you would want to submit before the CIT appeals, which during the course of assessment proceedings you may have missed, or AO might have not asked, and you might have not thought of submitting that. But when you go to the appeal stage, you think that this document is relevant for you to file this appeal. So then you have to file an additional evidence petition before the CIT appeals. So that has to be as per Rule 46A. So can we file with the conditions stipulated? So the circumstances where the AO has refused to admit any evidence which ought to be admitted, somewhere you have submitted but he has not considered, and that may not be additional evidence, but something which he has not admitted at all. So he has not brought it on his record also. So where the appellant was prevented by sufficient cause for producing the evidence which he was called upon to produce by the AO when called upon. Suppose AO has given 15 line items for you to be submitted within 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. So naturally you may miss submitting some of the details. So those details, if that has led to an addition, then you may plead before the CIT appeals and make a petition and file this additional evidence. Give the reasoning that due to this time, shortage of time which was given and the assessment which was concluded at the back end, this has led to a document being not submitted before the CIT appeals. Whether the appellant was again given with sufficient cause before the AO by not submitting the relevant documents. So where AO has given, let's say, orders are passed under section 144, where you are not able to address some of the notices. Okay? So there, again, in those cases, it is a case of all the documents being to be submitted through an additional evidence petition only, because section 144 is the best judgment order, where you have not been able to somebody not being able to submit any details and the order is passed, the assessment order is passed with additions across various sections. So there you file an appeal and you have the only option but to file additional evidence petition and file these evidences before the CIT appeals and give them a reasoning that, look, in the assessment proceedings we were not able to file the evidences, or somebody who's handling it didn't handle it properly, or whatever, all the reasons which you want to give there, and then try to push that additional evidence petition before the CIT appeals. Now, there is an option with the CIT appeals under section 251. There is a proviso which is there that they have the power to set aside the matter to the AO in cases of order which are passed under 144. So, best judgment assessment order is passed. The CIT appeals will get you can plead before him that, look, the order is passed on 144 and we would want you to kind of remand this matter back to the AO. So either he concluded or he has an option to remand it, to set aside the matter, not to remand, set aside the matter before the AO. That is only in cases where orders are passed under section 144, best judgment assessment orders are passed. Let's say the orders are on a regular basis, 143.3 or 147 proceedings. There are some documents which are not submitted and you place an additional evidence petition, file those evidences. He may look into the order and pass an order, finalize the CIT appeal order, or he may want to call for a remand report from your AO. So he basically writes to your AO asking for a remand report. So he will call for the AO, if required, AO will issue you a notice to give you an opportunity to again file these and explain him the case relating to those additional documents which you have filed with the CIT appeals. And once he gives a report to the CIT appeals, the CIT appeals will look into that remand report of the AO and then conclude the order, give an opportunity, and then conclude the proceedings. So this is with respect to the additional evidence petition and kind of procedures relating to that. Then written submissions. See, once you file an appeal correctly and that's been admitted, you get a notice under section 250, which is a hearing notice. Then you will have to file a written submissions. So some of the points, key points which I think which has to be looked into when you are drafting the CIT kind of submissions, written submissions for CIT appeals. A detailed written submission must be filed before the CIT appeals. Submission should be ground-wise for each of the ground contesting in the appeal. As I told you earlier, that you will get an opportunity to expound on the details. If you are raised on ground, it's your jurisdiction, you can write something on the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction. You can write on the natural justice. You are not provided time. The assessment was concluded on fact end. All those issues you can raise it. Or if there's a limitation issues which are there, that the proceeding was conducted. Some of the notices were issued beyond the time limit, or notices were not issued at all. All those legal grounds you can go expound it there. You can write extracts of as many case laws you want to put, you can put there. And also give the reasoning there that your case fits into this particular case law, and then you would want the CIT appeals to look into that and pass a order. then the submission should contain the fact, the finding of the AO and the arguments. So this is basically the flow of the submission you should follow. First mention the fact, then what is the finding of the AO on the fact, on the particular fact, and then raise your arguments. So maybe that you would have explained him everything, but he has not put anything on the order. That you can go in the argument stage and look, the CIT appeals is not, the AO has not looked into the aspects, not looked into these all these evidences, and just he has passed the order without going into those kind of evidences or some documents which are submitted. So then, that if you have that proper chronology in place, that first fact, then the finding of the AO, then the arguments, that look very elegant, and you can argue well, or somebody reading it. See, today it's a faceless appeal scenario we are all in. So the way you write it, very crisp, very clear, and in a very structured manner, that will help you to get a favorable ruling. Otherwise, we are ready for all the dismissal orders and everything will get settled at the ITAT or at the High Court level. So that is the kind of stage we are in these days with the e-proceedings in place, because we don't get a proper right to argue where face to face at least we'll be able to explain them, a lot of issues which are there, which cannot be explained in a e-proceeding because you don't get enough time with them, or they don't give you proper time, or I mean, you all know, you are all suffering with the e-proceedings, the way they conduct the video conferencing also. So, really, that is a fate which we are in, but can't help. So, the evidence must be given in form of annexures, separate book, paper book, numbered. So, you can give referencing to the numbers, so that if this matter goes to the tribunal also, somebody reading your submission, that will be easy for them to conclude the matter. That look, we had given such a detailed submission, but then CIT appeals didn't bother to look into it and pass an order. So that can be that will be helpful there at the higher courts. Reference to evidences can be placed. Ensure correct and relevant case laws of the Supreme Court or High Court or ITAT is quoted, and filing only needed case laws. Sometimes when you see that they upload all case laws also in the submissions, not relevant. Which is relevant, please upload those case laws. It's very, very precise to your case, very similar to your case, exactly. Then you raise those grounds, jurisdictional High Court decisions, jurisdictional tribunal decisions, or Supreme Court decisions which are very favorable to you, that you can upload it and kind of give, rather than kind of giving all other case laws are not necessary for you to be kind of uploaded while you are doing your written submissions. So relevant extract of the case laws to be provided to ensure that you raise. When you are kind of drafting, it has to be you stick to the case laws which are there, because sometimes you have seen us CIT appeals kind of going into those case laws and trying to say, okay, you have written this case law, please demonstrate how it is applicable to your case. And if you are not able to present it, then you lose the kind of the impression before the CIT appeals. See, they don't want irrelevant. If the CIT appeal is also well versed with the subject, then he would want to try to ask you that please don't have a copy-paste approach here. And what is relevant is what you quote, and demonstrate me how it is relevant to this case. If you are unable to demonstrate it, then you lose the face in front of the CIT appeals and you may lose the case, kind of thing. So that has to be very carefully looked into. As professionals, that is our duty, that let's not have the copy-paste approach. Basically, sometimes you may find such CIT appeals wherein they go into detail and they want you to explain every case law. They don't mind you calling 10 times. So that is where you will have a nightmare kind of situation if you have not quoted proper case laws there. Suggestion in the form of written submission in this kind of e-proceeding era, you ensure a lot of screenshots, you provide a lot of charts, a lot of tables to present your case, so that they should know, come what may, they should be able to give a favorable ruling with your writing, with your submissions, with the factual details which you are submitting, with the screenshots, charts. It's readily available. We need not go across to the annexures, which is very apparent. Let the submissions itself be that detailed, and all the relevant screenshots you apply it there itself. So that is one key thing which I see in the
respect to the same 144 issue, without making any detailed submission on merits, can I directly make?
When the order is under 144, without making any detailed submission on merits, can I directly ask the CIT to set aside the case to you?
Again, up to him. See, as a mandate, he has to set aside, but you'll have to give something in writing, right? That you are requesting to invoke proviso.
That's what, if I make the application to invoke the proviso to 161 without making any written submission on merits on any of the grounds I have raised, can I do that? Is the question.
You may raise it. And you may also, he may ask you, let's say the counter, if he asks you to give what details you want to submit. So then you may have to demonstrate him also.
Because most of the cases we are getting set aside orders. It is a 144, so the detailed written submission, whatever we are spending time and effort, it's all going into vain because at the end of the order, the CIT is saying this order to 144. So what if we directly make an application without running any written submission?
He may set aside. So he may ask you. The provision says he may set aside the assessment and refer the case to the AO for making a fresh assessment. Since they have power to enhance or annul the assessment, so then you have to be very careful of you going without making a proper submission with just saying, "Ki, please invoke this and just set aside the matter." He may not also. So that's why I told you. So cases which we have done, we ensure we file written submission. Also give additional evidence petition and every evidence is, and then he says, look, anyway it's 144, so I will pass it on. I will set aside to the year and I let him take a call. He has not given an opportunity. Let him give an opportunity and then let him decide and accordingly take proceed. So because it say he may, so it's not that he must or he shall, or that the wording is he may, so you cannot just say one application and then say, look, there is a mandate, you do it. He may not do it also. So procedure in the hearing appeal. So CIT appeals shall fix a day and place of hearing of the appeal and shall give a notice or the same to the appellant and to the assisting officer. Again, choose the order is preferred. Then the appellant or the AR, either them, appellant in person or the AR can go appear before the CIT appeals. CIT appeals shall have the power to adjourn the hearing from time to time. So they can adjourn on here if they are occupied with other matters. CIT appeals may, before disposing any appeal, make such further inquiry as he thinks fit, or may direct the AO to make further inquiry and report the result of the same. So they may get into other inquiries of the case. CIT appeals may, at the hearing, allow the appellant to raise additional grounds. As I told you that if it is satisfied with the omission of the ground was not willful or unreasonable, then the order of the CIT disposing the appeal shall be in writing and shall state points for determination, the decision thereon and the reason for the decision. So they cannot say just dismissed, which we see in some cases, which again goes to the tribunal and then it is ultimately again remanded back to the CIT appeals to give a finding and then give a proper order. So that sometimes we see that the CIT appeals does that without going into the proper reasoning. Just they say that dismissed, the appeal is dismissed and then they go for passing the order. In every appeal, the CIT, wherever it's possible, may hear decide the appeal within a period of 1 year from the end of the financial year in which appeal is filed. So sadly, they don't follow this, but there is a provision which is there given in the Act that they should follow 1 year timeline, but that is not followed by the CIT appeals. So order should be passed within 15 days of final hearing as per an instruction number 279. So again, this is not followed categorically. So again, we cannot kind of we have to raise it again in a very diligent manner so that it's not that their ego is hurt in raising this or raising this.
They will give one more notice. After 1 year, they will give one more notice.
They will keep the proceedings alive.
So I have a question. So let's say, a 143 rectification order was issued and, we went for appeal on that. And later on, we filed a rectification or a reassessment and, we got a fresh order. What happens to the appeal then? Does the appeal stand negated because now there's a fresh order?
No, what if a fresh order? 154 order is only to the extent of what is mistake apparent recorded.
Correct. So now there's a fresh
Does that order kind of resolve all your issues? The additions are kind of resolved or partly?
Well, if everything is resolved, then you can withdraw the appeal.
Absolutely.
Right? But if, let's say, partially something got,
Yes.
resolved, do we have to file a fresh appeal Or
No, that appeal will stay and you can kind of present this, the rectified order. To that extent, is automatically the relief is granted to you by the CIT appeals, and then they may kind of ask you to ask, or you may have to. I mean, depends on the facts again. They will look into the matter, whatever pending issue which you have.
so in the written submission, we can say that these are
Yes, these are things. Let's say for TDS credit, you have other issues. You have TDS credit. For TDS credit, we filed a rectification application. Then the AO has passed, has provided the credit. So you you don't wish to press the ground. You can just say that this ground don't need to push. I mean, you don't. It's up to you. You tell that you have got a rectified order, or you tell them that we don't want to press this ground. So you can write it.
In the previous slide, go to the previous slide. It's mentioned that wherever it's possible, he has to decide that appeal within a period of 1 year. So this is its possibility. If it's not possible, within how many years generally they can do?
We have cases.
Is there a time frame like 10 years, 15 years?
So I will come to a slide. Pending cases are high. There is a central action plan 2025-26 in place where they intend to reduce the appeals. But
Going by
the
this,
case is
they'll
very slow.
always say it's not possible for me to hear within 1 year. For each and
That's
every case
also-
they will say.
That's also up to them. That's what I'm telling you. So it's not only us. It's this matter is debated in the parliament sessions also. So why so much of kind of pending appeals are there. So we are taking steps according to them to dispose of the appeal. So action plan 25-26 which has come out in May sometime, that they have a lot of plan to ensure that the appeals are resolved and demand is also reduced by 31st March 2026. That is what they say, but let's see how it results.
Yeah, we have a situation here. What has happened? The assessing officer gave one Ashoka's notice in which he asked for PAN card of the unsecured loans which has been received. We have submitted that, but without asking any further explanation for that, the AO has considered that as unexplained. For the reason that the person who has given the loan doesn't have sufficient income as per the discussion. But we had not given any chance. When we went and asked after passing the order, he said you could have given the ledger statement of the. But by the time he had passed the order, so what has happened? We went for appeal, and the same office they have reopened the case under 148. Then 143.3 they have done this. For the same year they have opened it under 148. There what we did, we have given submission of this also. The loan ledger statements, everything, confirmation statements, everything. And they have accepted that. And they have passed nil order. For the same case which they had passed demand, now they have considered as, they have accepted and passed nil order. The appeal which we have gone, it is still there. What has to be done in this?
See, appeal is you have gone with the original order.
On the original order.
Thereafter, you
143.
have reopening of the case.
Yes.
But reopening of the case is the same issue.
They just reopened the case. It was mistake from their side. That is what officer accepted without noticing that.
But whether the order under 147 does it have all these that they have gone into these, they have looked into all these aspects and then they have given you a favor?
No, but in our reply letter, we have given that. We have given, we have shown that we have submitted these details, and he has considered that.
That's all.
But there is no mention of
finding in the AO order. See, again, they are doing a finding in the AO order that would have been placed before the CIT appeals. Your case would have been little strengthened there. That look, your officers have already agreed. Maybe a different officer altogether, but the same issue has been reopened and then they have agreed. Where we have given all these details, they have agreed. But now, since this is not the case, because I don't know what finding is there in the order. If those issues are not kind of covered there, then it becomes difficult. That may be like a very plain order that okay, whatever submitted, we have asked and they have submitted and that's acceptable, and we go accept the return of income, or that may be the. I don't know the order. So, but if there is no proper finding in the reassessment order, then again square one. If it is, again see that appeal, original appeal is always will stay, irrespective of the fact that you would have kind of given all these details in the reassessment proceedings. But if there is a finding in the reassessment proceedings, then your case becomes strengthened at the CIT appeals level, and you can kind of raise this particular aspect that look, there was a subsequent proceeding which was conducted and these issues were raised and we had submitted and the AO was satisfied with these particular documents which you had submitted.
Okay, but we can't withdraw that as of now.
You cannot withdraw. The original order will stay. Original order cannot be, it will not be like, it will be superseding that. That will not happen.
Okay. Adding to this, they have created one more miss here. So, if for the next year, there was a tax payable amount. We had filed original return. In that, we had shown no full income, so we had claimed refund. But before processing, we have filed revised return. Before processing the return. So what they have done, without considering the revised return, they have considered original return and they have processed the refund, and that refund has been adjusted to this the old demand.
Okay.
So what has to be done in this case?
You are telling that
Original return.
yes.
We didn't disclose
Same year?
Same year. No. This is for assessment year.
Different year, next subsequent year.
Yes.
Same assessing.
Previous year, the demand was raised for previous year, and again for the subsequent year, there was assessment. Under 143.1, they have considered and they have processed a refund, not to the bank account. They have just
intimation is there.
Yes, and then we had filed in before the case we have filed revised return. Adjusting the total advance tax which I had paid earlier. There was no payable or receivable.
So there was no, technically there was no refund.
There was no refund.
But original return had this refund issue. I mean,
Yes.
you would have claimed extra refund.
Yes, mistakenly they have processed
So
the
they
original
return
return.
reprocess, no, file a rectification online. And
But what they have done is they have adjusted this refund to the original demand, that is previous year's demand.
good for you. Good for you, but see, as a this thing, you show your state that look, after the revision return, reprocessing of the return was done from our end. That is what you can do in action, but otherwise it will be like you have only taken the benefit which was not due to you.
We have given the representation everything to them already. By stating
Raise a grievance
what,
petition?
yeah, no, not for the revision submission. We have given what has actually happened
How have you given?
in the return. We have given on letter.
Later, okay. Then that will help you. That at least from your end, you are very clear that
Yes,
I was not supposed to get any refund, but I have got it. That has been adjusted.
But it has created new demand for this particular year.
That's all. You can resolve all this, make a tracker, and then ensure
All
that.
they gave is technical error.
That's all. So you have to sit with them, ensure if there's any ITBA, they have to raise tickets, so many things. The inspector will make us say, if you go to the AO, he says, go talk to the inspector. That is what is happening and help. But you have to go with all details. If they don't have details, if they are not interested, if they are not satisfied in whatever manner they want to be, then it will be kept in abeyance.
What we are afraid is for this new demand, we have not gone for appeal because officer had told orally that he will be rectifying this error. For the same
So you have a
reason,
new intimation which has a demand.
yes, new information
Which has a demand.
wrong demand
Suggested is you file appeal and
for that also.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, I have a slight tangent to the same thing.
In one of our one of our clients' cases, we have gone for appeal for deposits. Deposits are added as income, and in that a small portion, which we realize that those people are not available, and the deposits are actually be added to income only. So now it's in tribunal hearing. It's not come for hearing yet. Now what I want to know is, for example, if 20 lakhs is the deposits which are added back, the 10 lakh is actually income. It actually can be considered as an income. So in the current year, in the income, can I show the 10 lakh and ask the tribunal that I'm showing it as income in the current year? So kindly not add it back there, or should I wait for the tax giving effect order and then how do I go about that?
So again, in fact, specific we will have to discuss. Maybe after the session we will look into this. So this is a very factual. You are asking something whether 1 year.
It's not factual, sir. What I want to understand is, should we wait for the order to pass and means, or else it will become twice, it will be taxed twice. See, if the order goes against me there in the tribunal, 20 lakh will be offered to income in that year, in that financial year. And the current financial year, if I am again offering it to tax.
But how can you offer it to tax? Cash deposit, it is related to order.
It's deposit, security deposit taken from customers.
Okay. So again, I'm not saying.
So I just started off with
factual. First understand the case entirely, and then maybe you'll be able to comment very clear manner. So because otherwise it will be a little incorrect in my way of kind of giving an answer. Maybe after the session we can. So these are some of the powers which the CIT appeals has. They have power to reduce, confirm, enhance, annul assessment. So they can enhance the assessment also. So be very careful of the way you go about in the proceedings, and also when you're submitting your documentation, and also raising the ground, as I told you, and statement of facts. Then you have an appeal against order 144. Then, as I told you, the proviso says that they can always have a set aside. They can always set aside the matter to the official system. Then the power to enhance to be exercised only after giving an opportunity of hearing. So even if they want to enhance the kind of apart from the additions which are carried out with CIT appeals by the AO, the CIT appeals can go into the issue and then try to say they can enhance the additions, okay, and or any other matter also connected to that which was there in the CIT in the AO order, that can be enhanced, but that has to be with a proper opportunity after giving the proper opportunity. Then they have power to call for a remand report with the assessing officer. They can have power to call for additional details that the amount, let's say additional evidence is something which you want to submit. But if they want some documents during the course of proceedings to be submitted, that can be filed with them without an additional evidence petition. So additional evidence is what if you want to raise some, if you want to have kind of place some evidence before them. But if they are asking for some details relating to those conditions, which is kind of an additional evidence on it, that can be given without a proper, additional evidence petition. They have duty to decide all appeals on merits, even if the assessee has failed to appear. But whether they follow or not, that is again in the fate of the assessee actually. So no power to direct the AO to reopen an assessment of earlier years. They don't have power, though they may follow a 263 route to do this. Then there is no power to award cost to the parties. Here they don't have that power. Then their power here is co-terminus with the AO, so he can do whatever the assessing officer can do, okay, and also direct the AO what he has failed to do so. And as I told you in 263 also they can do that. After the order, some of the things which you have to take care is you file a stay petition within 30 days of service of the notice of demand. Then once the appeal is filed, then the payment of 20% demand is not mandatory. Why I am telling you this is, you can always plea before the AO. He has a discretion to reduce it to 15%, 10%, give an installment, all of it. He has all the powers. Depending on the case, he will do so. Then application requesting to payment of taxes in installment can be made, as I told you. If AO rejects the stay petition, then the stay application can be filed before the PCIT, raising the reasoning of why you are not able to pay the 20% of demand also in the case of an appeal. Then in the if there's a penalty proceedings, you can always file a preliminary response in the proceedings telling that you have won the appeal and request them to keep the matter in abeyance. Already this point was discussed. So this is with respect to the CIT appeals. I would go to a different forum, which is a DRP. Generally, this is again one level below the ITAT. This is for cases where there is a transfer pricing case involved and there is a non-resident case. These are the two eligible assessees basically, or there is a foreign company. So if there is any addition or assessment going on for these kind of assessees, then you have an option to fast track, or because the DRP is supposed to pass an order within 9 months. Okay, so you have a fast track approach to go to the tribunal. So this is one of the kind of again an appeal mechanism, alternate dispute mechanism which is there before the ITAT, one level below before the ITAT proceedings, which one I should say that was not there in the topic, but I am just kind of as a process and going into that. So what happens here is during the transfer pricing proceedings, as I told you, eligible assessee is one assessee whose transfer pricing assessment is being conducted and there is a TP order in place. AO is supposed to pass a draft order proposing the addition, and thereafter you have time of 30 days from the receipt of the draft order to file an objection before the DRP. If you wish to go before the DRP. If you don't wish to go before the DRP, you can say so by filing a letter to the AO, and the AO will finalize the assessment order without giving an opportunity of hearing. And with that final order, you can file an appeal before the CIT appeals. But if you would want to explore this option of going to the DRP, then you have 30 days time to prepare the objections. That has to be filed in form 35A, which is prescribed in the rules. So you have to, here the assessees are very clear that only transfer pricing cases assessees or any non-resident assessees or any foreign company. So these assessees who assessment are conducted and there is a addition, variation proposed, and your judicial officer or the faceless officer will kind of issue a draft order, and thereafter you will have to file an objection before the DRP. So on receipt of the draft order, eligible assessee shall within 30 days of receipt of the order file acceptance of the variation, the assessing officer, or file his objections with the DRP. Once the objections are filed with the DRP, he can have a letter filed with the AO telling that, look, we have gone before the DRP, so they will wait for the directions of the DRP before finalizing the assessment. So what is DRP? Dispute Resolution Panel means a collegium of comprising of 3 principal commissioners or commissioner of income tax constituted by the board for this purpose. Now 144 C section 3 says the AO shall complete the assessment on the basis of draft order if the AO intimates, as I told you, the acceptance of the variation or no objections are filed within 30 days. So thereafter AO has AO to pass orders within 1 month from the end of the month in which acceptance is received or the period of filing the objection before the DRP is expired. So that they have to wait till that period, and if that happens, then they can file this the order. But if you have filed a DRP objection, that in form 35, that has to be given or that has to be intimated to the AO about your action on this, and then he will have to wait till the DRP directions to pass the final order. DRP shall, in a case where the objection is received, issue such directions as it thinks fit for the guidance of the AO to enable him to complete the assessment. So subsection 5 is where he will pass the order. 144C subsection 6, DRP shall issue directions after considering the following, that is, you will have to look at the draft order, objections filed by the assessee. Here, unlike others, you have to raise the objection and you have to file your submissions then and there itself. Okay, because again, this is the, and your paper book, whatever you want to submit before the DRP, you can submit it within 30 days, because again, raising an additional ground or additional objection here is very difficult. So that is a challenge for the transfer pricing practitioners who practices before the DRP, that they have 30 days time if they are handling multiple DRP matters, then they have to ensure that 30 days has to be equally distributed to ensure that the proper objections are framed for all the cases, and then with all the relevant documents, your DRP filings are done. Then evidence furnished by the assessee has to be looked into. Report if any from the AO. If there is any additional evidence, here also you may have additional evidence which you will file before the DRP, that they will have to mandatorily call a report from the transfer pricing officer or any other officer if there is any valuation issues for a non-resident or so and so forth. Then records relating to draft order has to be ensured, any record that also has to be looked into by the DRP before issuing these final directions. Evidence collected by or caused to be collected by has to be looked into. Result of any inquiry which they would wish to make, that also has to be looked into, and thereafter finalize the directions and pass accordingly. So the DRP may confirm, reduce, enhance similar powers which the CIT appeals has. They may do so, and then if any of the members of the DRP differ in their opinion, then the majority, because there are 3 commissioners who are sitting in the panel, so if there are difference of opinion, then majority opinion will kind of prevail and that order will pass accordingly. Every direction issued by DRP should be binding on the AO. So no direction should be issued unless an opportunity of hearing is being provided to the assessee and the assessing officer. No direction should be issued after 9 months from the end of the month in which the draft order is forwarded. So here is a strict timeline given to the DRP that they have to follow these 9 months so that the matter kind of is fast tracked to the ITAT. Otherwise, CIT appeals, you know that there is no proper timeline for them, no strict timeline for them to pass an order. So they take their own time, sometimes 2 years, 1 year, 4 years, 5 years also to pass an order. So that is a thing, at least that is not the case where the DRP matters are there. I mean, DRP has to file an order within 9 months. From the end of the month, the draft order is forwarded to them. Upon receipt of the direction, the AO has to confirm his final or finalize his order based on the directions of the DRP, and he has to pass an order within 1 month from the end of the month in which the directions is received. That is a strict timeline which is to follow. Once you get the final assessment order, after the DRP directions, then you may file an appeal before the tribunal. So this is the action plan which I was telling you, that is a central action plan of the board which is there, which was issued sometime in May, I think so. So what does it say is the appeal, pending appeal is 5.38 lakhs CIT appeals which is pending as on this date from 5,49,000 a year ago. So that means they say that they have reduced it, but again there was also a new scheme, e-appeal schemes, which was e-appeal schemes 2023, which was issued wherein they had introduced basically the JC appeals, Joint Commissioner appeals, to ensure a speedy disposal of the appeal. But sadly, I mean, we don't see the results there. Even after that being done, we are not able to see a resolution there, and the appeal is just getting piled up. So that is one thing which they have to carefully look into. And what they propose is disposal of the appeal. They set an ambitious target of disposing 2 lakh appeals and about 10 lakh crore of disputed demand, which will address 10 lakh crore of disputed demand. The target fixed for reducing the areas of demand is, let's say, up to 50%. Target is by 30th September 2025. 70% of the target by December 2025, 100% of the target by 31st March 2026. That is what their action plan states. So let us see how they achieve this. Yeah. Thereafter, also there is one remark there that cases below 25,000 demand and older than 10 years without any pending appeal shall be written off by March 2026. Because we see that some of the assessees, they have older demands which are showing a little outstanding demand, and we get calls from the income tax department about the demand to be addressed. And sadly, because of those demands, you are not getting a refunds also, some of the assessees. But God only knows how those demands are arising. When we go back to the assessee, they say they have no record of, let's say, 10-year-old, 2002 matter, 2001 matter also is appearing in the dashboard. But when you go ask the assessing officers also, they also don't have proper record. But I don't know how that, orders, how the demand has been created. At least somebody should be accountable there. That is sadly missing, and due to that reason, a lot of assessees are facing this issue of not getting a refund. A lot of companies also, there's some demand which are there for some years which are not actually there as per the assessee, but it is there as per the department. But when you go to the department, they don't have an answer, or they don't have proper order to provide for in this. Next, with respect to the pending on the remand reports, also they say that they have set some target of 10% by May 25, 20% by June 26, 25, 100% by July 25. That is what they set a target. So let us see how they work towards this kind of their action plan. Now, there's monetary limit change which has happened in September 2024. The monetary appeals is basically where an appeal can be filed by the department before the tribunal. So that happens only after the CIT appeal stage. So where they can file an appeal before the tribunal against if they are aggrieved by the order of the CIT appeals. So wherever the monetary limit, the impact is more than 60 lakhs, they can is more than 60 lakhs, they can go before the tribunal, and more than 2 crores, they can go to the High Court, and more than 5 crores, they can go to the Supreme Court. So that has been enacted just to ensure that there are no kind of unnecessary appeals, or the lower effect appeals are not filed by the department. So, appeal to the tribunal. Commissioner appeal is the first appellate authority, and ITAT is the second appellate authority. Basically, these two authorities are the fact-finding authority, and ITAT being the final fact-finding authority. Appeal to the ITAT can be filed by any of the aggrieved parties, that is the taxpayer, or by the assessing officer. The ITAT is constituted by the central government and functions under the Ministry of Law, as I just mentioned a few moments ago. ITAT consists of two classes of members, judicial member and accountant member. Judicial member is a member who is of at least 10 years of experience in judicial office, or who is an advocate for at least 10 years, or is a member of Indian Legal Service holding post grade 2. So this is basically given in your section itself. This is the minimum criteria for them to be a member of the member of the ITAT. Accountant member is a person with at least 10 years of CA practice, or there are some registered accountant under any of the some laws which are there formally, where they were registered accountants. Those are also eligible. Members of the Indian Income Tax Service who are of grade A, or who held the post of additional commissioner or any equivalent or higher post for at least 3 years, they are also eligible to be an accountant member at the tribunal. Central government shall appoint a person who is sitting, or a retired judge of a High Court, or any vice president of an ITAT to be called as a president of the ITAT for that particular term. This is basically the constitution of the tribunal. Now, the form and time limit for filing an appeal before the tribunal. So, it is the form is form number 36, and where there is a memorandum of cross objection, that is cross appeals. Suppose department has filed an appeal and you are not happy with the way they are filing an appeal, you want to have your appeal, your ground also raised on some matters. So you file a cross appeal within 30 days of the receipt of the notice of the ITAT hearing, that will be in form 36A. So appeal to ITAT is to be filed within 60 days from the date on which order was appealable, but that was before 1/10/2024. After 1st of October 2024, the time limit is revised to 2 months from the end of the month in which the order is communicated, or order to be appealed against is communicated to the taxpayer or the principal commissioner or the commissioner of income tax, as the case may be. So timeline is changed. Earlier the 60 days condition was there before 1st of October 2024. After 1st of October 2024, 2 months from the end of the month in which you receive the order. The ITAT may admit an appeal even after the 60 days or a 2-month condition if it is satisfied with the sufficient cause. Again, there is a continuation petition here also to be filed before the ITAT. But here, filing an affidavit along with the evidences for the delay is mandatory in nature, without which they will not admit, and in fact, that will be the first line of argument which will take place, that whether to allow an appeal or not. Because the assessing, let's say you are assessing, filing an appeal for assessee, let's say there is a delay of 200 days. You will be fighting for the assessee, but there will be a departmental representative, a CIT DR, who will be fighting for the department, and he will try to undo that some of the reasoning which you are giving in your condonation petition or in your affidavit, that is not acceptable and that should not be accepted. That will be the plea of the departmental representative. You will have to, because here it is an open forum, and you have to present your case in a very strong manner so that the appeal is getting admitted first stage for the ITAT. So the appeal filing fee is, when the total income is 1 lakh rupees or less, then 500. It exceeds 1 lakh, does not exceed 2 lakh, it is 1,500. If the total income computed by the AO is more than 2 lakhs, it is 1% of the assessed income, subject to maximum of 10,000 rupees the appeal fee. Where the subject matter of appeal is not covered in any of these 3 cases, then it is 500. And where there is a application for rectification, let's say when there is also stay of demand appeal which you are filing, then also the fee is rupees 500. And if there is any mistake apparent record from the ITAT order and you want to file a petition, then the appeal, there's a fee of 50 rupees which you have to file. So who is the person who is to sign the appeal? For individual, he himself or an authorized representative can sign, who is having a valid POA. Under the HUF, Karta can sign, company, if there is a MD, then MD has to sign. If not, then any director can sign. If there is in case of firm, managing partner has to sign. If he is not available, then any other partner can sign. Same in the case of LLP, designated partner has to sign. If he is not available, then any partner can sign. Likewise, local authority, principal officer, political party, CEO of the subject party, principal officer in case of any other association, and any other person who himself or any other person competent to pass. ITAT functioning key points. See, ARs has to observe dress code which they have to follow. In case of female, they should have this black coat over white or other sober colored sari that is prescribed as per the rule 17A of the ITAT rules. For male, it is a suit with tie or buttoned coat over a pant. The color of the coat preferably should be black. For lawyers, they have to follow their dress code. Letter of authority has to be on the individual name or a joint names and not in the name of the firm. They can write the individual name and then also mention the name of the firm, but it has to be addressed to an individual. Thereafter, extremely it is important to study the CIT order thoroughly and prepare the factual and other legal aspects which is discussed in the CIT order. It is advisable to have separate set of paper books to be filed. One paper book for appeal, then one paper book for your actual factual submissions, and if you have case laws to be filed, case law compilation, there can be a separate paper book, and all these documents has to be signed or initialed by the maybe the assessing office, maybe the AR authorized representative or the appellant himself. On all the pages, he has to at least initiate it. That is the mandate required now. So then there is a paper book. Again, for case laws, you can have separate paper book. Unlike CIT appeals, ITAT is really strict in the terms of the proceedings are conducted, the way the numberings are done and all of it. I mean, you have to ensure that you follow that particular protocol, else the appeal might get dismissed or they may not entertain the appeal itself. So there are a number of benches across India. Example, Bangalore for Karnataka, and in case of Maharashtra, let's say you have Mumbai ITAT, Pune ITAT, Nagpur ITAT. So depending on the population, they have this kind of arrangement. Generally, there are two members or division bench to hear the matter. There is a single bench member, also single person also looks into the matter, and the matter is very small. So that is called single member cases or small cases also you can come. Then there are DRs and ARs. Authorized representative will be appellant representative and there will be departmental representative. Then here is very structured. Weekly constitution of the bench in advance is done. Every Friday you receive a cause list in the website. If you go and see the cause list, you will prepare yourself that next week which are the cases which are lined up for you, and then you can accordingly be prepared for the case. So all your filings will be before the registrar, assistant registrar, and in case of Bangalore, the address is Jayanagar T block, 14 block. This is the address, Chelbhavan, for your ITAT filings, appeals and so grounds of appeal should be concise, again very headwise, whichever, let's say you have to be very clear on the way you are filing your appeal, which are the additions. Let's say if there are multiple heads of income which are getting addressed, so ensure the way you kind of present it, which is very easy for them also to look into, that will help by presenting the case before the tribunal. So again, here also you can raise additional grounds. Rule 11 of the ITAT rules admits you to file additional grounds. Additional ground can be taken by the leave of the ITAT. Unlike in CIT where you can show more to go, here you have to kind of take a request and then place it before them. So document to be submitted, everything in kind of triplicate. That form 36, then order of the CIT appeals order, AO order, CIT appeal. So these are the things. Why 3 copies is 2 copies for the AR. There are 2 members in the bench, right? So judicial member, appointed member, 2 copies for them. Each of the copies of them, 1 copy for the departmental representative, and 1 copy is your OC copy for you. So this is the thing. And these are the appealable orders. I am not getting into the orders. So these are basically the orders passed by the commissioner, appeals under section 250. There are all these penalty orders which are passed by the commissioner appeals, rectification order passed by the Commissioner of Appeals. Exemption not granted by the Commissioner of Income Tax, exemptions, those are also kind of appealable to the ITAT. Or ATG approvals are not granted, rejected, then that also is appealable order before the ITAT. Then order passed under 263 or 264. 263 is by the Principal Commissioner of Income Tax, where there is a prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, and there is a prejudicial interest of the assessee, where the assessee himself moves to the petition filing 264, that is appealable before the ITAT. So yeah, this is it for today. Thank you. I have rushed it and I am sorry. Any questions? 5 minutes.
So I have a question regarding evidence, providing evidence. So at the time of filing the appeal, especially in the faceless scheme, there is a limit on the amount of attachments you can file with the appeal. What if the size limit is exceeded for the attachment? Can we?
It not accept.
It not accept. So is there any way to provide that evidence in any other future hearing, or can we just?
Yeah, I mean, see, in future again that becomes an additional evidence petition.
Okay.
So, no, that is when you are filing your this thing, that is a again system issues are there.
Yeah.
But we'll have to break it up and then produce it. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, something like that.
Even then, like let's say if it's for a company having multiple branches.
We'll have to make a representation and then get the issue sorted.
Is there any other way to give it to them offline or no such?
Nothing as such.
Nothing
There
as
are appeal websites which are there which will help you. But again, I'm not sure whether that will reach the concerned CIT appeals or not. Because there are appeal units which are in place across every state. So
Yeah.
we don't know which state your appeal is going, which unit it is going. So whether it reaches them or not, we don't have a dedicated kind of common email ID so that it goes to respective, but it's not there.
So how is there no solution right now?
Only a portal is a solution. Portal sadly is only allowing.
And when they send a notice for hearing, can we attach it in that hearing? But will it be an issue if you attach it in that hearing notice?
No,
we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
With your submissions, which you have to attach.
Okay. Thanks.
So personal demand. Earlier when we used to appear before CIT appeals, so I have come across this remand, sending the file on remand. Under e-assessment, is it happening, sir? Sending it on
Yes,
remand?
in one of our cases, it has happened.
It has happened. And
So it has come to the judicial officer only.
we have
And then they obviously they called us on an offline basis, not through a proper channel. But there was internal report which was asked for.
Okay.
So, but they're not asking us. Because with the document what you submitted, they're not supposed to ask us.
Okay.
That is, you want to go, you explain them. For your own betterment, you go to them. If it is a physical hearing, then obviously, second floor from Income Tax Department, Government Lab used to go to second floor and go with the way and tell, look, sir, we have filed all these additional evidences and matters remanded to you. Please look into it, and if there is any issue, we can explain you. That's the only thing which we can go ahead and send.
Yes, sir. I mean, when we go for appeals with CIT, say that there's a case demand under 147, and also simultaneously there is a penalty for the same case. Say under reporting of income plus 100% of penalty. We'll have to make 2 appeals, one for the penalty and one for this. Imagine the situation where there is time gap between 2 appeals we made. Because the second, the appeal we made for penalty is completely based on the first appeal, 147. Because if 147 does not stand, the appeal is also has to follow.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that, I mean, how will the commissioner look at it? Is there a possibility that these 2 appeals go to different commissioners and then
it goes different commissioners?
So they,
in fact, we are getting, in some cases, we are getting notices for penalty proceedings. And we have been telling that, look, we have not got notice for the main appeal. And we sincerely request to give this matter abeyance. Because otherwise it will be like putting submissions before you and kind of getting this matter concluded even before your actual matter on the factual issue is getting concluded. So even if you pass it, even if they pass a penalty order, it will be not justice to the assessee because the main appeal is not concluded yet, and then how can you complete the penalty proceeding?
So basically, the penalty hearing should be completely based on the addition of 147. So they are hearing the same fact twice. So
See,
the penalty
technically they can independently go about deciding it, but only point is both the appeals are pending with the same forum, and factually you will present the same case, and you will have your legal angle from your penalties telling no malafide intention, all those things which you want to put across in depending on the section of the case, you will put across those things. But what if they don't accept it? But their acceptance will be only on the legal issue but not on the factual. But what if there is a favorable ruling in your CIT appeals? Then that matter has to go to tribunal and that get easily resolved at the tribunal level.
But I mean, out of
There is no connection. That is an issue.
out of curiosity, have you seen a case where you have got a favorable order in the penalty and there's a...
No, so only they kept it in abeyance only, proceedings itself. But wherever, let's say, they passed an order and they filed an appeal, but penalty appeals are getting issued at the earliest because they want to dispose. Like they have this action points to ensure that the appeals are disposed the earliest. So then we have to request them, main appeal is still pending, and then this has to be heard or this has to be taken up only after the main appeal is disposed. That
And I mean, maybe 147 order is challenged, penalty order is not challenged. Maybe after 1 year, 147 is resolved in favor of the SSC. Will that question the whole standing of
penalty will stay. You have to file an appeal. If its order is passed, if the proceeding is only open, then you can request that you have got a favorable order from the CIT appeals, and then you can drop the penalty proceedings. That is, if the penalty proceedings is open before the assessing officer, if the passed before the assessing officer itself, then you have to file an appeal. There is no way out.
So even if the 147 does not stand, penalty proceedings will stand if we have not gone for an appeal.
Yes, yes. So there are two independent things which are happening here. So only thing is, if it is no penalty orders are passed, then they can keep it in abeyance till the disposal of the order. But sadly, if penalty order is also passed, then you have to fight out two appeals.
One question with respect to the show cause notice. One thing is that we filed a response to show cause notice, but assessing officer didn't consider. He said if the order assessing didn't find the reply, to what grounds we can take in this?
Show cause level you have submitted the details.
Every detail what he has asked, we have submitted, but he passed the order adversely, saying that assessing didn't furnish.
So you have to raise very strongly that even after submission they have not looked into in the CIT appeals, and you have to fight them. To write very strongly on those grounds. Maybe bold it in a manner that they have not applied their mind, also they have not looked into also, that you can raise it before CIT appeals.
And some addition you also made without issuing show cause notice, then what we can do?
Again, principle of national justice ground. See, these matters go to tribunal. In one case, even we have gone for an adjournment, but then during the course of adjournment, they asked us to explain the case. There itself, we raised the point that the CIT has not given enough time. Within 1 month or 2 months, they passed an order, and without waiting for a proper response from the assessee, they have passed an order. So immediately the member has remanded back the matter to the CIT appeals. So that will happen. Same case of your AO also. They will immediately remand it back to the AO. If you show it in the order itself, there is no proper kind of time given and it's in hurried manner.
Hello sir, I have one client who is earning salary income from 2001 to for the assessment year 6, 7 or 5, 6 they have raised their demand saying that TDS mismatch which usually form the TDS credit is not visible in the form 16, 26 years. How can we approach that demand has been still there in the demand register? So how can we approach? I have approached to 154 rectification application. What they are saying is in the form 26 years it is not been visible. So I am not able to process the application that they have approved. So how can we approach this?
From 26 years is only after 2008 or 9, I think. So before that, you will have to get your Form 16A, Form 16 as the case may be, and then file it before them and say, previous credit was, so we are supposed to get the credit but you have not got. But again, if they have the records, they need to prove also that how this demand is arising.
I have submitted a salary slip and Form 16 also. What they are saying is from 6-7 we don't have the validation to how can we approach this? The order has been passed in 2016-17. We don't have an option to file an application for appeals. So how can we practically approach?
No, so you raise a grievance. You do what we have to do. Let's say you have to write a letter to the judicial officer. You please write telling all your issues, grievance, and whatever documentation you have. Raise a grievance also. So you will take action required from your end. That is good enough if it goes to the next level.
To add on to that question,
50 grams, 60 grams, whatever. So all these options are available to you. Please put it so that that becomes a record, and tomorrow if the matter has to travel to tribunal or high court, then it becomes easy.
to add on to that question, in my case, my client, Form 16 TDS is available, 26 years TDS is available. But demand is there. We filed rectification, we filed grievance, we filed to IT manager, we emailed to assessing officer also. Rectification rejected. Grievance we are going through it. Appeal.
Can't help because that is a.
Sir, we have a case where we have got a 147 and 139 return was not filed. The return was filed under 148 and the return was accepted subsequently in the 147 order. But how do we tackle the 270A penalty? Because the officers are treating it as an automatic levy because there is an amendment in 270A which adds to say that if the return was filed for the first time under 148, any income reported is treated as underreported income.
See, as on date, we don't have many precedents. It has to be again through the first line of principles, so you have to find this, writing it out. But then, the moment we have good amount of precedents from the higher forums, high courts, or the Supreme Court, it will take time. Actually, high courts also, we don't have enough cases in the 270A, apart from writ petition which are filed. So if we have certain cases which are passed by the divisional bench, let's say of Karnataka High Court also, it would be very favorable to us, presented before the hearing. And also, if at all there is any other strong judgments, that is a plea which you can take, depending on again the facts of the case.
Because there is no other.
Yes, this is a new change which has happened in the penalty from 271C to 278. So it will take some time to evolve and you get some precedents to find it out. Because without that, the AO will not agree to your line of reasoning. Because he will have his own interpretation and he will have his own kind of way of, will be given his own way of doing things because department works in their own kind of set protocols, right? So you have to wait.
The monetary limits prescribed are 60 lakhs, 2 crores and 5 crores. Is it only the basic value of tax or including interest penalty?
It is basically the tax effect is what they say. So tax effect, tax liability itself you can find it out. With tax effect itself.
No interest penalty.
That is what our stand will be. Because the tax, definition of tax doesn't include interest. So,
Thank you so much for the wonderful session and providing valuable insights. We, the managing committee members of Bangalore branch of ICL, on behalf of all the members present here, appreciate the time and effort to disseminate the topic and discussion. As a token of appreciation, I request the chairman, Mr. Manjunath, to honor the speaker by handing over a memento. We thank each one of you for your support for Bangalore branch. I request all the members to kindly follow ICA Bangalore branch YouTube channel and Bangalore branch WhatsApp channel. Thank you members for joining us today and we will see you next Wednesday.